I think that says it very well. Congressman Pfluger joining us now on the radio and KWEL. Congressman, I know your comments were talking about the pits of hell and everything, but your thoughts on Charlie Kirk?
Well, Charlie was a friend. Charlie was an inspiration. Charlie was somebody who spoke the truth even when it wasn't convenient, even when it wasn't popular. You know, he went into probably the most hostile environments on college campuses where the liberal bastions of radicalism were being taught. And yet he held strong to his faith. He held strong and firm to his beliefs. He was somebody who, you know, I've watched, as many people have, so many clips over the years, but in the last couple of days have gone back and watched his interactions with people. And he was never angry. He was never condescending. He always had a sly little grin on his face, but he always gave people a chance to talk about why they believe something and tell me the definition of what a woman is. And when they couldn't do it or when they refused to do it, he said, this is what the definition is. And this is what Jesus Christ says. And that's why my faith is important. And this is why our government was founded on Judeo-Christian principles and why it's so important for us to hold to that today. So, I mean, yes, there's such a mixed array of emotions, Craig. I'm angry. I'm grieving the loss of somebody who was truly inspirational and who was absolutely making a difference in our youth. 3,500 different chapters across the country. I just spent a couple of days with him in Colorado Springs about a month ago. He was nominated to serve on the Board of Visitors, of which I'm chairman for the Air Force Academy. So many changes that need to happen in the service academies, which is why I've taken this mantle up. But I was extremely impressed. And the last things he said at that meeting, where we discussed DEI and rooting out DEI and making sure we were a meritocracy at the Air Force Academy. I mean, this is common sense stuff at a service academy, that you want, you know, everybody to have the opportunity to get there, but it's a meritocracy, and it really doesn't matter what you look like or where you come from. And then he honed in on something that I don't know that any of us had the ability to say in the way he said it. And he said, why are we not teaching American exceptionalism at the Air Force Academy? Why are we not teaching a great love of country? He said, we have young men and women from all over the country that come here to serve, to be commissioned as an officer, to go into the military, to lead, to fly, fight, and win, and be willing to give their lives in defense of the Constitution. So we should be teaching love of country and why America is truly exceptional. And I'll never forget that. And that was really the last. We texted a few times after that. He was going to come be my guest at the Republican Study Committee here in just a few weeks, but that was the last time that we spoke, and that will live with me. And so many interactions that he had with many different people. But yes, I'm upset and sad and grieving and angry, and just like so many people, there is no place for political violence. There is no room for political violence. And we have to stand firm against it. And I'm calling on those on the other side of the aisle to also stand firm. And we will be there to stand firm, whatever the ideology is, whatever the political targeting is. There is no room for it in any lane, in any way, shape, or form. And this one is just, it's devastating, Craig. It's devastating.
Congressman August Pfluger on KWEL. He invited people to have a dialogue with him who disagreed. And like you said, that smile, I kind of forgot about that, but that smile, and he would never lose a debate. I'd hate to debate him. He would never lose a debate, but he never rubbed it in either. He was so special.
Yeah. Well, and his mantra was, you're right, he did not lose a debate because he was founded on biblical principles. He was founded on what our Constitution and our framers drafted. I mean, so he had the law, which he understood came from God, was given to man in a variety of ways. And this, we said, you carry a lot of security guards, and he said, yeah, I do. And we get death threats all the time. And we said, that must be tough on your family. Yes, it is, but it will not silence me. It will not silence the truth. And that's the way he approached it. So it's tragic, it really is. And I'll say this, anyone who targets another person in this country for political reasons is an enemy of the state. I swore an oath to the Constitution to protect against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And this individual who has assassinated Charlie Kirk is an enemy of the United States. And that must be made very clear. And it doesn't matter what group you're in. It doesn't matter what the ideology is. Our First Amendment is first for a reason. And it is first because we have to have the ability to have civil discourse. And we know that we are ideologically very, very far off. But if we can't even talk about it, then our founders and the foundation that they left us has been broken. And that's why I'm up there fighting every single day, Craig.
By the way, President Trump announcing this morning they apparently have caught the shooter, so that's going to be a big breaking news story today. But Congressman, one of your colleagues, and certainly you're far apart here, but Representative Ilhan Omar was doing an interview and actually laughed and dismissed tributes to Charlie Kirk, saying his views were all effed up. That's coming from a member of Congress. That ain't good.
No, and while I didn't see that, it shows such low class. It shows such lack of empathy. It shows such a distasteful way to approach something. And if we can't even agree that it is horrific, no matter who the victim is, if we can't agree, then I have nothing in common with that person. And I think that's the difference, Craig, is that when something bad happens to somebody that I disagree with, I can promise you that everybody in Midland and Odessa and San Angelo is expecting me to act with character and with respect and with dignity and to mourn something that is, while we may not agree, that does not give us any sort of reason or ability to act with disrespect, which what you're alluding to, unfortunately, is it's happening and it's disgusting, and I have nothing in common with somebody like that.
We'll bring in a call, Congressman. Nope, nobody there, but Congressman August Pfluger. When you see the video and the pictures of the casket and everything, and Mrs. Kirk in the car, the limousine afterwards, and driving away, and a lot of supporters there, and they're waving apparently and everything, and she's waving the windows down, and she's waving to them, and you can tell she's sobbing. I mean, that just tears at your heart. And what about those little girls? I guess one's a boy. You have pretty small children. How do you explain that to them?
It's been a tough conversation. I suspect. I mean, we were shaken to the core on the House floor while we were voting on the National Defense Authorization, the military support bill, when we found out, for sure that he had in fact died. And you think about those kids, you think about Erica, his wife, you think about what they stood for, knowing the risk and knowing the threats that he received, and now that they will grow up without a dad. And you see the videos of them running to Charlie in a variety of situations. What dad out there hasn't experienced that? That's the greatest joy on earth. It beats every professional achievement. It beats every personal achievement. I mean, that's the best that there is. And I know for a fact, because Charlie told us how important his family was to him, and the reason that he was doing this was so that they could grow up in a country that knew right and wrong, that was refounded on, or reestablished on the foundations of our principles. It's terrible. It really is heartbreaking. And there's been an outpouring of support for him because of the courage that he had, the moral courage to stand up in hostile places. And his legacy, he's still with us, Craig. He may not be here physically, but he is still with us. And his message, I believe, while very strong, 3,500 chapters, as I mentioned, across the United States, it's only going to grow. It's only going to increase. And I think there's going to be a revival in this country that's based on the the inspiration that Charlie Kirk left us. And I certainly hope that that revival includes a decision by leaders across our country to reestablish the rule of law, to condemn political violence, whether it's BLM or neo-Nazi, it doesn't matter. We have to condemn it equally. We have to come out and say we don't believe in this, that that's an enemy of the state. That's what Charlie stood for. Charlie didn't stand for violence. He didn't stand for anything other than a transparent debate, a fair debate. And by the way, he usually won.
No doubt about it. He was a big family man, as you mentioned, and yesterday, of course, we had Charlie Kirk on this radio station, syndicated by Salem Radio or Salem Network, and the guys were talking yesterday during his what would have been his program, and they were talking about Charlie was asked many times to go on these cruises with the other Salem hosts, spend a week with your favorite host on a cruise, blah, blah. He said, nope, I'm not going to do it because I'm not going to be away from my family. He wouldn't do it.
Well, that's exactly right. And he was away enough, but I think, you can look at him as an example, and I think all people should look at him as an example of his love for the Lord, his love for his family, his love for this country. I mean, he had it right. And it was in that order, by the way. And I think, for people like me and for other leaders, we look to Charlie, even though he's younger than us and maybe didn't have all the world experiences, he had it right. He understood and was grounded. And I think that's the legacy that no matter what side of the aisle you're on, most people that are normal can respect it. And most people can say, you know what, that's exactly right. And he stood up for what he believed in.
And one more thing. Yesterday, of course, the anniversary of 9/11, I think 24 years ago, you were just training at that point to become a pilot, maybe down in Del Rio. But tell us about your thoughts about 9/11.
Well, you're right. I was in Del Rio and only a few weeks away from graduating pilot training to go fly the F-15. And, of course, our whole world changed at that point. And, since that point, Craig, I've been engaged overseas in conflict and have spent my military career fighting terror threats and making sure that we keep this country safe. And I think, right now, the threat is still high. The threat is extremely high, whether it's people that were let into this country by Joe Biden illegally and serve as a threat, or online radicalization, what's going on in the Middle East and Iran, and thank goodness we have a president who has stood up to deter those types of threats. We must remain vigilant. I'm still involved in this congressionally, leading the Counterterrorism Committee and making sure that we are absolutely aware that there are people around the world that want to see our country fail. And when you look at some of the Charlie Kirk messaging after the assassination, places like Russia, online messaging wants to foment discourse in this country, wants to foment hatred of both sides, ideologically, left and right, and they try to capitalize on this. It's sick. So we're going to stand vigilant against that, and I hope that we can bring the temperature down by agreeing to condemn these types of violence and these types of violent acts, and to identify as Americans, God-fearing, Constitution-loving, family-raising Americans. That's what we need to get back to.
All right, God bless America. And Congressman, God bless you and the work you do and your family, too. Thanks for everything. We appreciate it. Hope you have a good weekend.
Well, Craig, thank you, and God bless this great country. It's a somber time, and I hope that everybody can go to prayer, as President Trump has called upon us to do. I hope that we can go to prayer. I hope that the suspect is, in fact, in custody, as is being mentioned right now. We'll be watching these events. It's an honor to represent a district that does love God, that does love our flag and our Constitution, and that believes in why we were founded and still fights to preserve that. God bless.